In the name of God, who made limits to the power of every man and limits to the power of any city, I am continuing with the story of World War I, World War II, and World War III, and how they are gas wars, and how the gas wars are 100-year war because of a revolutionary technology. And it's a it's a human race of technology over the combustion engine, over the iron and the gas that supplies them, that are irreplaceable. If you don't have the iron and gas, you just simply can't have a powerful economy. You must have them. Every country must, or he cannot be powerful. And then we learned also that based on the geography and the position of the country in the world, that the world trade, has allowed the cities to become very, very powerful. And that is all based on the idea of you could never travel as far and as fast ever as you can with an engine. And now they can. So this is new, and this is the dictator's revolution in the last 100 years. And the dictator's revolution means genocides. So that's what they do in order to control the areas. So dictators cannot compete with a normal economy. He has to extract natural resources and leverage that power of that business uh, strongly enough that it is going to dominate an economy of a city of millions of people. And when you've got people who are organized that can do this really well, then you'll get somebody like what you've got in Moscow, where they are in control of the entire gas industry for the country. And this is happening in every country. So we needed to look at, we're going to continue on the story of World War II. And we described how Saudi Arabia and Iran are the first, Saudi Arabia and Iran are world powers in gas. This is where we've always gotten the gas from for 100 years, and that there is a pipeline system here. All of it comes out of Ras Tanura, and that is here on the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, and here is Qatar, and right above it there's this protrusion where the shoreline comes out of it and the water gets shallower there, and that is where they have the main drill site for all of the oil and gas production. And that for all of the pipelines that you saw, there was pipelines here and pipelines there and pipelines there and pipelines there. There was one pipeline that meant everything. It was the most important and significant pipeline, and that pipeline was the only one that means everything. Is the pipeline that goes up the side of Iraq, across the corners of Jordan, across to right up past the Tiberis, and right between the nose of Netanyahu and Nasrallah, where they're fighting now, out into the White Sea. And that that was in 1947. They built that pipeline using contractors, and then they established the state of Israel 1 year later in order to set up their security and set up their businesses and everything there at the mouth of the pipeline in order to protect their business that they needed. And Europe is coming down to the Middle East. Europe wants this gas. Europe wants this gas. We want this one. Okay? And now, this is something very significant, and that is the power structure here. So the power structure here, for this is what we will be talking about today. We're going to discuss the why World War II is happening, and now that we've discussed what Israel's stake in what this means, why is it World War III? What's World War III and why? Well, it's happening now, as we understand, because there is that pipeline there, and Israel is the faceplate for the West in this area, and that this is essential, and that without this, Europe would have to find gas from elsewhere. And as we know, they had alliances and contracts with Moscow, and Moscow's power and economy absolutely depends on gas. Gazprom is how they control their world trade influence in this area. And they also do diamonds. And diamonds are going to become an essential mineral gem in this mining, in this new technological revolution. The diamonds are going to be used to make diamond plates, and those diamond plates are going to be needed for lasers, for refraction, for tunneling, and they are also apparently used in solar panels. So these are technologies that are going to allow for energy that can move engines, and that's going to be a huge resource that is going to come into play that maybe is not understood for its value now. It's diamond, and it is abundant. It's not rare. There's a lot. Diamonds are constantly being generated by this earth. So to understand, one of the, I'm doing this socially because I haven't had time to write this paper. So the influence and power of Russia, as I described in the last video, we can see some grid lines here now. So what's really, really significant about this world is that, so we're being told that our ability to live in an area and thrive is based on its proximity to the sun, and that makes it favorable or unfavorable. And what is interesting to see about that is that, first of all, there's only ice very, very at the cap, and very, very at the cap here, although it does get a lot colder in this area. But as you can see, with the equator being here and Moscow being way up there, well, they're already up there in the Arctic Circle. I mean, they're as north as north as north, and they're apparently doing fine with some winter jackets on. So we are thriving. This is our planet. We're all the way up and all the way down. We're thriving. And here's the bottom of Africa, way down past the Tropic of Capricorn. So we're thriving here. And this is the equator. And as I described, you want to know how you know where the equator is? Chop off half of Africa. That's where the equator. The equator is far under the top of Africa. It's actually under the panhandle. So now, the essential understanding about the economy of Russia and Europe and World War III and the influence that's going to occur is that if you don't have an engine and you want to do the mining to move the items that you're going to need so that you can use all of these resources as leveraging, or just so you can get things that you don't have anywhere here, and these cause economies to thrive. Trade lets economies thrive. So how are you going to move all of these things around? And in this start, there are no engines, and this is very heavy and very long. So the best way to go to carry any kind of heavy load is to float it on a ship across the water. And that would mean that the riverways are not only essential for the water and the irrigation needed for the agriculture to support human life, but also for transportation and for connecting with other economies, to get that energy and to get that energy into the city and to be powered up by that trade energy from everywhere. And those rivers are the connections. Those are big, flowing, strong connections. It is the Danube River that runs from Germany, from the south of Germany. So here is Germany. It runs from the south of Germany, and that river, Danube, runs across every little baby country throughout this whole area, as if everybody got a piece of the river. And that's where a huge amount of the life is focused, in big cities along these rivers, because they were made powerful there. And it goes down out right over Istanbul, and that river Danube empties into the Black Sea. So that means that for Europe, this is an artery of life right here for Europe. And this is how we flow. We flow like this. Okay? So there is another area, and I have described this very detailed. Moscow is the land of 5 rivers. And why has Moscow gotten so big and so powerful? Moscow has 5 rivers. There's a river in the north that comes around and travels down into the Black Sea. That's the Dnieper. It goes right through Kiev. Another river goes out around, comes out around this way and goes southward. And then another river comes down from the south of Moscow here. And then there are other rivers to the side. So there's 5 rivers here. 5 rivers, and Moscow is in the center of all of them. So there's riverheads, and there's Moscow. And this is how Moscow was allowed to become big and thrive, because in every corner, and it was a big open land, that the rivers could keep sending in power until there's just this big area and it's ready to thrive. And all of the riverheads are starting there. So not to mention the aquifers and any kind of natural resources contributed from having these rivers, from having a river. So that means that Moscow is thriving based on those water systems. And for Moscow, 2 of these rivers are very important to his power structure, and that is the Don, which goes around and down into the Caspian Sea. You can even see it from space. It's this big, I'm sorry, it's not the Don. The Don is another river. This one's the Volga River. So the Volga River goes into the Caspian Sea. It's here. And a large amount of Russian life is focused in cities along the Volga River. And it's a powerful arm of Moscow. Moscow has 2 arms. The Dnieper in the west that goes through Kiev. Here it comes from over Moscow, from north of Moscow, around, down, right through Kiev, across Dnipro and Zaporizhia and Mykolaiv and Kherson, and right out into the Black Sea. And as we know, the Black Sea is the only way for the Danube and the Dnieper to get on water out to all of the world, because you can't get anywhere on the water. You won't, unless you go through this door. So this is one arm. It's the Dnieper. It's one arm, and the other arm is the Volga, and it's here going into the Caspian Sea. So for thousands of years, the rulers of Moscow have always wanted to be able to connect. These are his arms. They really are. Those rivers start in Moscow. All of the life of Russia is focused all the way along down him. That's his whole power base. You're messing with his power base. And then they come down into the Caspian, into the Black. So for Russia, when in World War II, when the Dnieper River was turned into this country of Ukraine, this was the penalty for Stalin. It was that one arm, in order to repress, in order to hold back those dictatorial powers in Moscow, that they were going to cut the arm off. They cut his arm off, and that was the Dnieper. And now Russia feels that the only way to be able to balance the power is to go and get it back. And he is. And this is why the war in Ukraine is happening. And this is why the leaders all over the world, including the Western leaders, are so interested in pouring trillions of dollars into these countries, and why they refuse to provide air defense. Because this is a struggle for control of the economy, and there's no one that challenges the economy or of a dictator's powers, of his monopolistic leveraging over natural resources, than the people of the city, the people's economy of the city. Why? Because we're people and we're eating it, and it's our homes. And he's just blowing open mountains and traveling these rocks back, to make all of our things. We don't need them. So we don't need the dictator. We could do that ourselves. And so we're absolutely threatening. And for us to know that they are threatened by us is a revelation. And this is what they fear. So I'm making you the understanding about World War III, and we've discussed that these river systems are very connected to the power of Moscow. And why would this is the understanding of Russia's power, is that all of this green zone here at the north, which is exactly green, this is Russia. And here where you see the gold, where the green turns to gold, is the borders of Russia. And if you're green, you're Russia. And when they cut the borders, they gave you what was gold. And how is it possible for this country to have this great amount of territory, that security forces from the capital are able to control this whole territory. So no one has been able to challenge, no one from anywhere here has been able to, interested in, or even cared to take control of this area here. Or maybe they have and it's been done secretly, but there is not a great population here. But there is, and it's very interesting that there is 1 billion people living here. There is 1 billion people living here. And there's nowhere on the world that they will find countries with 1 billion like that. Nowhere. No one ever comes anywhere close. All the other continents have hundreds of millions, if that. And they do not, and none of them have billions. Or so we've been told. We have been told that they had counted 1 billion here. And then we're being told that this is how big the world is, after they've done genocide after genocide. So they're trying to convince us that their capitals have so much power that they're ruling over 1 billion. That's what they're feeding us. They're trying to feed us this kind of ideas. So this is Russia's territory, which they have had the capacity to control all of this land. And not only that, but they've been successful at repressing the economy for all of Russia. And if you ask any Russian, the Russian economy is absolutely oppressed. They're living very poorly. They're living as poorly as anyone in the Middle East, in Russia. And how is it possible that these people are not being able to connect here? That economically, that nobody was interested in that. Because of the accessibility. So the only way to travel in Russia across a long distance with a very, very heavy load is using the waterways. And here in the north, this waterway is so icy and so cold and so north. It's away from the economy. You would be going a long way around. It would be very, very cold, and you would need a special ship to break the ice as you travel. So this is not economical. It's it's a very weak economic route, and it is not capable of leveraging you a strong economic power or giving you a successful economy, or how do you say, to let your economy thrive. So therefore, Russia is always traveling southward and depend more heavily on this seas, on the North Seas, to get through. And has, due to the proximity of Moscow, which is here, with Europe, that they have intense interest in economic partnerships. And the problem is that when a group has economic leveraging power to control with security forces and armies all of his country, and then to furthermore have the capacity for conquest, to be able to try to secure and retain more territory and to be able to expand your economic influence and then to leverage it in a dominating way over other parts of the world, you need a really strong team of dictators. You'll need a whole team of dictator monopolists, businessmen. And the ability to negotiate and to make business, dictators among dictators, it's like the law of one. So the human mind, it works in a way. And when you program it in this way to be forward and aggressive towards the objectives, then you're dealing with a specific character. And in order, when you instill a character in the body, there has to be instinctual reactions, because at any given time the ball could drop, and then the body, it's going to the instincts are kicking in. And for some people, the instincts are going to go in a certain way because of how they're feeling, and for other people the instincts go in another way. So we've got a team of big bad dictators. They've got some pretty violent instincts that they're just going to immediately, without thinking, kick in. These are instinctual. And bad guys, they don't think about things very much. So there's not a lot of process thinking here. There's not a lot of consideration. So partnerships here, very exploitational. So if you're in Europe and you want to make a deal with these guys, I mean, these guys, how are you going to negotiate? These guys have what you need. They have the supply, you need it, and so they control it, and they say what they want, and you pay what they ask, or you can't have it. So that's been going on, and it's penalized, and because of it, Moscow has gotten control over parts of Europe, leveraging pieces of Europe. Yes, they have. And they're going to use those leveraging points to further their goals, which is to, with the Dnieper and the Volga, to access the Caspian and the Black. So, and then to furthermore continue throughout the world and using their economic partnerships with the absolutely disgusting dictators in India. You guys want to live under those guys? No, you don't. You're a total liar. You're a total liar, and you would never. Okay? And you guys want to go to China? You guys are going to live under them? You're a total liar. And everybody knows, every influencer, whoever thought that they were going to take a couple of bucks to say a nice thing, went running with their ass in their hands. Yes, they did. They did. They went running for their life. They ran for their life. And you will. And that's not a joke. Okay? So this is not a game. It's not a joke. You're not on the side of the dictator. You never will be. We're not playing this game. You're not going to roll with the commies. You can't. You will be on the side of democracy, or you'll be in a mass grave. So, I think that's the greatest explanation for the connection of the World War III as a part 2 series on explaining how it's a 100-year gas war. It's based on revolutionary technology, and we have never seen it in thousands of years of human life on this world, and that we're about to experience another revolution, and that is I'll call it the diamond revolution. So the diamonds are absolutely necessary for this new technology, which is going to allow powering of combustion engines. Power the engine, because if you don't have an engine, you're not going to be able to move around fast. Never. So this is the needs and the influence that the city is 15 million people here in Moscow, and the 15 million, including the gas fields and its area and the rivers that supply it, have allowed that city and the group and the immense economic powers that live there to leverage over all of that green to be able to maintain security forces for like 8,000 kilometers or more of 10,000, half a world away, 8 time zones of territory. This is the piece I am missing now that we're discussing it. Okay, so the last piece is the Terani connection, and that is because the biggest cities in this area, the most important leveraging powers are Moscow, that's coming up the Dnieper into the Black Sea, Istanbul, that has the 15 million and holds in the gateway, Cairo, that has the 25 million and is the gateway, or you're not going if you don't get through him. And then we had the only other place where there was that many people was the 15 million here in Tehran. And I had in the last video discussed how the Tehrani, the Irani pipelines are taking the oil and gas here from the shores of the Persian Gulf, transferring it up these backbone pipelines up towards Tehran, and that they have pipelines supplying the different cities here in the area. But as we discussed before, there's one pipeline that means everything. There's one pipeline that means more than the rest. And they're also bigger. So in the past, the pipelines were 20 inches or 30 inches, and now they've got 40-inch pipelines. Those are pipelines that are 3 feet big around, and that's what's channeling gas. And there's 2 pipes here. This is double backbone, and it comes up towards Tehran, and that's branching and sending gas. And the gas supply is now that they are learning to do offshore drilling in deeper waters. And in the past, when they do the drilling offshore, they were able to get into 100 feet of water and to be able to make platforms. This was doable. And increasing on this technology, now they are learning how to go into deep water, thousands of feet down, and to be able to drill and to extract and to bring it up and to even lay pipelines down there. And now that they are pivoting the power base, and when the power base of the gas and oil moves from here in the Persian to here in the Caspian, and there is Tehran, that suddenly the gas is at my toes. Suddenly the gas is on my hand, is at my hand, and in a different location. So we discussed how these gas supplies here and here are being used for this region, and that Moscow controls all of this green, and that the borderline comes here where you see the gold meets the green, and that these countries are fractured based on water and rivers. So every country has a river, and that they depend on their power. All of the power of this area depends on gas and iron like anybody else, and they need to be able to get it. And so they're gonna go to the nearest place, and it's his neighbor. This is his neighbor. and he's going to go to Tehran, and he's going to go to the Caspian, and he's going to go to Tajikistan and Turkmenistan, and that's where they're going to get their gas. They're going to get the gas out of here, and so this is a heavy gas supply area, and a really great way to know exactly where all of the current gas and gas supplies are is to know where is our current drilling and mining activities, is to know that there has never been tectonic plates. There's no true earthquakes based on tectonic plates. All of the earthquakes are from mining. It is from mining, and it always has been for 1,000,000 years. And every time that a king and queen was mining and that there was an earthquake because of them using bombs underground, that they made up this lie, and they told us that there was tectonic plates. Why? To hide billions upon trillions upon dollars and to rule the world. And if you knew the secret, they would not be ruling you. This is a vital secret. And so this is how you know where all the stuff is. So we want to see earthquakes